Here are a few more tips for working with the augmented matrices. If you're given an equation or a system of equations that looks like this one in the top left corner, you might want to consider rearranging it before you set it up. In fact, as you would solve every system of equations, this is not a good situation. So you would most definitely want to rewrite this into a form where you have all your variables on the same side of the equal sign and lined up under each other. So you would certainly, in the case of the top equation, we would like them in the order x, y, z, so you would want to add the y over 10 half of minus z, and of course move the 4 to the right-hand side and make it negative. You also do not want to work with fractions or decimals. So if you see you have fractions, you want to take the entire equation and times something and get rid of the fractions. In this case, 2 would be a fairly easy one, which means we're going to end up with 2x minus 2y. When we take 2 times the 1/2, it's going to give us 1z, but I'm bringing it over to the other side, so it's going to be minus z equals 2. And then, of course, this third one just simply needs to have the 5 moved to the right-hand side. The point is, get your equations cleaned up, get rid of all fractions and decimals before starting. Okay, the other thing over here is just a quick little summary about what you can legally do with row operations. You're allowed to multiply or divide a row by a number. So you can take the entire row times 2. You can divide the entire row by 5. You cannot add 3 to every number in the row. You cannot subtract 7 from every number in the row. That is illegal. You are allowed to add or subtract 2 rows to combine them in some way. We don't multiply 2 rows, so you won't take row 1 times row 3. That's bad. So I guess I should be making a list here. So you cannot add or subtract a single number, like adding 5. And you also cannot multiply rows together. I have no idea why you would ever attempt to divide them. Essentially, ask yourself, if I can do it when I'm doing elimination, can I do it here? And that's what's allowed. Okay. We're going to do one more augmented matrix, but I wanted to do it in terms of a word problem. So we're going to look at this one. Hopefully I got it typed in here right. We have a vending machine which accepts nickels, dimes, and quarters. At the end of the week, there is a total of $536 in this machine. The number of nickels and dimes combined, not combines, is 360 more than the number of quarters. The number of quarters is 110 more than twice the number of nickels. Here we go again with all those twice and 3 times things. How many of each type of coin is in the machine? So the big question is, what do we want to know? How many of each type of coin? How many coins are there? There are 3. So X, say, is the number of nickels in the machine. Y is the number of dimes. And Z is the number of quarters. Okay, they gave us pretty much 3 clear pieces of information here, so we need to use that information they've provided. Actually, I guess the second sentence. At the end of the week, there's a total of $536 in the machine. So how do you figure out where that $536 came from? If there are X nickels, say there's 10 nickels, how much money was that? 10 times 5 cents, that was 50 cents. So we would have to take the actual value of a nickel times the number of nickels plus the actual value of a dime times the number of dimes and the actual value of a quarter times the number of quarters. Okay, that takes care of the monetary value. Now the rest of this is related to just how many of them are there. So the number of nickels and dimes combined is 360 more than the number of quarters. Okay, just follow the grammar. The number of nickels and dimes combined. What's that mean? Yeah. Add your nickels and dimes, you're combining them. Is, that's the equal sign, so we know equals. So it says 360 more, so 360 more would be 360 plus then the number of quarters. Quarters were Z. Ta-da, we've got an equation. And then third one, the number of quarters is. Once again, look for your verb. There's is. So the number of quarters is means we have number of quarters is Z. Is our equal sign. 110 more than twice the number of nickels. 110 more than twice the number of nickels. Nickels was X, so twice X. And so now you've got your three equations. Now, these are certainly not in the proper order for us to do our row operations by any stretch of the imagination, so we need to clean this puppy up considerably. Okay, they would actually tell you in the order of row operations, they would say get them lined up but don't change numbers yet. You could change numbers here and I probably wouldn't scream about you're getting rid of the decimals, but we'll play fair and do it the way the book wants you to. Second equation would become x plus y minus z equals 360. And third equation, we'd have a negative 2x, no y, a plus z, perhaps we should write a 0y there, equals 110. So that's what we would be turning in to create our row operations out of, which I'm going to do over here on the right. So if I now turn this into row operations, I would simply pull all these numbers out into my augmented matrix. We're liking these other rows a whole lot more than we like the first row, that's for sure. And I did a bad thing. I didn't leave myself enough room to write my row operations on the right-hand side. So I need to move this puppy over. And we'll see if we can do a better job here. We'll split that out a little bit. Okay, I definitely don't like the top row. But also, even if I fix the decimals, do I want those set of numbers in the top row? I'm thinking I want the second row in the top row. So I'm saying first thing we need to do is switch rows. Row 1 and row 2 need to switch places, which is going to give me 1, 1, negative 1, 360. But before I move the second row, I'm actually going to get two things at once because I'm going to run out of space here if I don't. What do I have to multiply by to get rid of all those decimals? Well, they all need to move two places. So while I'm at it here, I'm also going to take 100 times row 1 to make it all move two decimal places. I'm sticking that in row 2 as well, so that I will then have 5, 10, 25, and more importantly though, 53,600. And third row, it's just hanging on for the ride at the moment. Why are we liking that third row? Well, I'm liking that third row because it's got the 0 in the right spot, but who knows if it'll stay that way once I have to do some other things. Okay, now what's your next goal in working row operations? You want to make the 0 below the 1. So we are shooting to turn this 5, oops, sorry, that 5 into a 0, and it still wants to do it. Okay, fine. Well, yes, it does highlight a number, but we want that one to become a 0. So how do I make that one become a 0? Okay, you're doing elimination, so you're thinking, okay, I'm up here at the top with a 1 and a 5. What do I have to do to make that eliminate? Yes, I need to take the top row times -5. So I'm going to take -5 times row 1. I'm going to add it to row 2. Where do I want the answer put? In row 2. So am I changing the top row? Answer is no, I'm not changing the top row. Will I ever change the top row? No, you will never change the top row. You don't want to blow that 1 that's up there. Okay, so now we're taking top row. Give me one moment to switch to a color that's going to be feasible here. Yipes, what's going to work? Well, let's go with that one maybe. And I'm going to take top row times -5, add it to second row. That's, of course, going to give me a 0. Then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take first row times -5, add it to the second row. -5 plus 10, that's going to give me +5. Then I'm going to take top row also times -5, add it to the second row. That'll be 5 plus 25, so that's going to give us 30. And then this one may be a bit more of a challenge. If I take top row times -5 and I have to add it to the second row, I think I'm going to have to grab a calculator. I actually don't have this pre-worked. So I'm taking -5 times 360 plus 53,600. And, well, I was trying, but I have a typo in my calculator here. And we have 51,800. Don't really want that color though, huh? Okay, do I need to change the third row? Okay, I personally like to save space and do more than one row at once. You wouldn't have to. You can do this one at a time. But I actually think you'll find that this, once you get the hang of it, it works fairly easily. It's simply like you're doing another elimination. So if I'm going to do another elimination, this time using first and third rows, because you always want to use the 1, what do I have to do to make first and third rows eliminate? 1 and the -2. Yes, top row needs to be taken times 2. So this time I am taking row 1 times 2 and adding it to row 3 in order to make that happen, and you really can't see that, so let me turn that to another color. 2 times row 1 plus row 3, we're going to put that in row 3. Okay, so once again, not that big a deal to do. Taking first row times 2, adding it to the -2, which is going to, of course, get me 0. Maybe I should color code that. Maybe I would like the blue. Let me go with the 0. Okay, taking second row, or second column, excuse me, times 2, adding it to the third row. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 0 is 2. Unfortunately, I lost that 0. Doing my third one, I'm going to take and multiply top row times 2 again, but add it to the third row. -2 plus 1 is -1. And then finally, taking it 2 times the top row and adding it to the third row, that's 720 plus 110 would be 830. Okay, well, we got column 1 done. What's the next thing we have to make? And yes, the key thing we have to make next is we have to get a 1 right here in this spot. Okay, well, how do I make that become a 1? Unfortunately, actually, did that miss right? Wasn't that 30? Yes, I see my number didn't stick. This was originally supposed to be a 30 right here, not a 3, because I was thinking as we did this that, oh, that's going to work nicely. So sorry if you caught that. That didn't write. That should have been a 30. Okay. And so now we actually have 2 choices. There are 2 ways we can make a 1 here. We can divide the whole roll by 5, because it's all divisible by 5. You could also, this is the second option, you could take the third row times 2, do 5 minus 4. That would also get you 1. Both would be legal methods and would be acceptable. In this case, I think it causes less confusion if you just divide everything by 5. So I'm going to recommend that we divide everything by 5 here. So I'm taking row 2 divided by 5, and I'm keeping it in row 2. That's going to give me 1, 1, -1, 360. Okay, divided by 5. This is going to be 0. That's going to be 1. 30 divided by 5 is 6. And now 51,800 divided by 5. That's not quite so obvious. And we have 10,360. Okay, row number 3 is sitting. We have to deal with it last. Okay, so last but not least, I need the 0 right down here where this 2 is at. That's got to become a 0. So how do I make it a 0? Do I want to combine it with row 1 or row 2? Okay. You don't want to ever use row 1 again, because if you use row 1, this 1 will screw up all your other numbers. You want to avoid that at all costs. So instead, whoops, didn't want to do that. We want to do a row combination. It's just like we're doing elimination again. But this time, if we're going to eliminate with rows 2 and 3, we're going to eliminate with rows 2 and 3, what do I have to do? Well, I need to take row 2 times -2. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take -2 times row 2 and add it to row 3. Now, where do I want the answer? I'm making a 0. Well, I want that answer in row 3, because that's the 0 I need. So if we extend the page here a little bit, I am leaving, oh, doggone it, why does it want to switch colors? I'm leaving the top row alone, not changing it. Okay. Second row, not changing it. I like that one where it's at, not going to ever change it again. The only thing I'm changing now is third row. So here I go. I'm taking the zeros, which of course going to make a 0. Not a big deal there. I take -2 times the 1 and then add it to the 2. That gets me the 0 I was looking for. If I now do the same thing here, if I take 6 times -2 and then add it to row 3, -12 plus 1 is going to be -13. Okay, that's a little bit of a scary number, but hopefully this will turn out decent. And then last but not least, if I take 10,360 times -2 and I add it to 830, that one's not going to be quite so nice. Actually, that's going to be -20,720. plus 830 is negative 19,890. And you're thinking, oh dear, I've screwed it up. Whoops, wrong pen. Well, why does it not want to change colors when I change colors? Okay, we're close. We got the first two columns done. Last but not least, we simply need to get a 0 right here where that negative 13 is located. That's got to become a 0. So I don't want to combine it with the other rows. If I combine it with the other rows, I'll get 1s over here where all my nice little zeros are at. Your only choice at this point is to divide. That's all you can do. We have to take row 3 and divide it by negative 13. And of course, we're putting the answer in row 3. So that's going to give us, leaving our other equations alone, 0, 0, 1, and then the question of the day, when I divide that by negative 13, I get a whole number. So, hey, wow, we probably didn't mess this up. We get 1,530. Now you can go ahead and proceed to solve the problem. I'm coming back over here now to write these out. I now have equations x plus y minus z equals 360. Y plus 6z equals 10,360. And of course, then we have just solved for z, and z itself is 1,530. When I then proceed to solve it, I'm going to have 6 times 1,530, and that is going to equal 10,360. So if we do that, 6 times 1530 is 9,180. So I'm actually subtracting 9,180 to the other side, which is going to leave me with 1,180. Then finally, if I go a step farther, what do I need to do to solve for x? Yes, I simply need to put those two answers back in. So if I come back to the very top and go, okay, x plus y was now 1,180. And it says do minus z. So by minusing z, z was 1530. And that is supposed to equal 360. Okay, well, 1180 minus 1530 is going to be negative 350. So I actually have x minus 350 equals 360. If I add x over, that's going to be 710. So what did I find out in all of this? And I'm unfortunately out of space, and I really don't want to extend this more, so I'm going to squeeze this somewhere. I just found out that we have 710 nickels in this machine, since x was nickels. We have 1,180 dimes in this machine, and 1,530 quarters were placed in this machine this week. Hope it has a very large storage area for coins, because that is a monster amount of coins. Okay. Good luck with your augmented matrices and your row operations. Practice makes perfect.